Hello, boils and ghouls. Welcome to another episode of Dads from the Crypt. My name is Jason. I'll be your host this evening. And I'm joined by Mondo.
Hello.
Hello. And tonight we have a very special guest. He comes to us from the History According to Hollywood podcast. His name is Dustin. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. I was on a recent episode of theirs to talk about Bram Stoker's Dracula by Francis Ford Coppola. And it was a really good time, but explain the concept of this podcast, which I really enjoy it.
So essentially we just take like each episode is a movie, and we talk about the movie, but we also talk about what the movie is like in history, what like the time period, what the real events were, if it's accurate, if it's inaccurate. Talk about the real people that these actors are portraying. Sometimes it's a little more streamlined and focused, and then you have sometimes where it's 1992's Bram Stoker's Dracula, where it's like, oh, we have 10 minutes of history at the very beginning, and then the rest we just kind of talk about the movie. So
did they have terrible accents back then?
Yeah, and powdered wigs, and yeah, everyone was apparently very sexual. Yeah, no, we deemed it not very historically accurate, but it was a good time, and that's what we try to accomplish. No matter if it's a winner or not of a movie.
No, I really enjoyed your listen to your Glory episodes, one of my favorite movies, and then also the 300 episode was really fun.
The 300 one was very interesting because like it's almost like it's a crazy movie, but what actually happened is almost crazier. Right. We just had one, Young Guns. I couldn't imagine. There were parts of it where I was watching it and I was like, all right, this is obviously made. This is part of the movie. And he's like, no, that's actually kind of legit. Like these things actually happen. I was like, this is wild. So
that is crazy. I thought Young Guns was 100% fabricated.
You would think so, but like a lot of it is legitimate, and there's parts of it where the real life history was actually crazier than the movie. They kind of toned it down for the movie.
Wow. Yeah, I haven't unfortunately have not checked you guys out yet. I did add you to my podcast feed, so hopefully I get time in this world at some point. But I saw the video, the reel you guys did for the episode of Bram Stoker's Dracula. Yeah. And I laughed my ass off at it. I thought that was great.
Yeah. What was it? I don't remember the number on how many Dracula movies had been made, but my favorite part of that when I was writing the script for that skit was the fact that Dracula 4000 was not real, but Billy the Kid versus Dracula is an actual movie.
Yes.
And I know that with it being history, eventually we're going to have to cover that. I'm sure it's
you know what though, some of those I'm assuming that came out in the 50s or 60s.
So somewhere around there.
Like I love those old like Hammer Dracula films and the offshoot ones they did, like Frankenstein, Prisoner of Dracula, the French ones that came around. So there's a lot of cool, dude. Someone could probably do a podcast just on Dracula movies at this point.
Well, because like our friends, we have friends who do like Frankenstein podcasts where they did like, I think it was a Godzilla versus Frankenstein. Like it's like Godzilla kind of in quotes versus a quote Frankenstein monster.
I think that was originally what King Kong or Godzilla versus King Kong was supposed to be, was Godzilla versus Frankenstein.
Yeah, they did like some other. Yeah, they did like a knockoff, or someone did a knockoff version. Yeah, it's wild, man. It's wild.
Yeah. Speaking of specialized podcasts, real fast, our good friends, our friend Alyssa has been on the show before. Does the Silver Scream, dedicated to werewolf movies. I am on that. I'm not sure when it releases. We did Werewolf in a Woman's Prison, and spoiler alert, we all thought it was one of the worst movies we had ever seen. But we had a good time talking about it. It's a really fun podcast.
Nice. All right. Well, today we're diving back into the world of the Creepshow TV series. You can find it on Shudder, AMC Plus, etc., etc. We're kicking off season 2, episode 1. And looking back, I could have sworn we've done more than one season of Creepshow. I think because there's like 2 segments in each one, it feels like double episodes. And then we did the specials.
Yeah.
So I was looking like, how did we only do one season? But it all kind of adds up. So again, we're doing episode 1 of season 2, which came out April 1st, 2021. And I know that there's a big gap between the first and second season, a lot of that to do with COVID, et cetera, et cetera. But we start off with a episode that is both segments are directed by Greg Nicotero, who everyone should know very well by now. The first segment is called Model Kid. And again, we're just talking about Frankenstein and Dracula and all the Universal monsters. Fits in perfectly. So we start off, it's like 1970 something, 77, I think. We have a boy named Joe who's very, very into the classic movie monsters. I love his bedroom. It has so many Easter eggs, a lot of Creepshow Easter eggs, and just all kinds of Easter eggs galore. It's beautiful to look at. And it starts off with this great, like, imagining of Gilman versus the Mummy. And it's like film, like the suit work in this is just fantastic. I love a good Gilman suit. It's always fun. But it turns out it's a movie that he's showing, and he has a mother who's sick. She's really supportive of him. They're very loving, but she is not long for this world. She passes away in his bed, apparently. In their embrace, it's like a really heartbreaking scene. And then his uncle or his aunt and uncle come to live with them. The uncle is toxic masculinity personified, and Kevin Dillon. And he wants them to become a man, yada, yada, yada. And, he's being bullied by other kids, but he keeps having these like really fun, like fantasies of like Frankenstein choking out a kid in broad daylight in the middle of the street in suburbia. That was awesome.
Frankenstein's monster. Thank you.
Yes.
Who then says friend, just says one word, just friend.
Well, that's straight out of Monster Squad.
Monster Squad. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, he really hates his uncle. His uncle's like throwing away his toys and everything, and he's like beating up his aunts. Just real piece of shit guy. So he sends away for a model kit, which turns out to be like a voodoo model kit, so you can make it look like anyone you want, and then do voodoo things. And then he can also take his figurines of like the Mummy and Frankenstein and Gilman and like put them against the voodoo monster, and eventually he sticks all these monsters on this uncle, and uncle gets torn asunder. And then the kid gets to be spooky again. All is well. All right, Dustin, you're our guest. You can start us off. What did you think of the segment?
There were parts of it that I really liked, and there were parts of it where I was like, I think the script could have used one more rewrite. Parts that just kind of didn't quite click together. I was confused on if it was like the movies, because so you start, like you said, you start off with that scene like they're fighting in one of the movies, like the old Frankenstein meets the Wolfman type. Mm-hmm. But then he's got the action figures and he's painting them. So it's like, okay, wait, hold on. Are we watching a movie? Is he watching a movie and he's living vicariously through that, or is he living vicariously through the toys? And then during the last scene, when the uncle's being attacked, you have the action figures there with the victim, doll that he's supposed to be, but you also have the weird cutaway where it's like we're returning to the uncle versus the monsters, and it's like, hold on, which reality are we supposed to be living in here? So I thought that was just kind of a weird thing that they never really tied up. But yeah, the practical effects and the suits in this looked amazing. I cannot. Okay, does he not look like Ethan Hawke?
No, at first I had to look it up at first because I was like, is that Ethan Hawke? I don't remember him in Creepshow. I saw Kevin Dillon, who's later age Ethan Hawke looks like Kevin Dillon. Kevin Dillon's looked the same his entire life, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, his overacting throughout this, I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I like it or don't like it. I couldn't decide. I mean, anytime he's on the screen, you can't look away, but it's just like the faces and the like twitches and the way he's walking. It's like, what is he?
He's one of those. He's one of those actors that's just always trying really, really, really hard, and I love it. But he doesn't know how to tone it down for a moment.
I love
he doesn't.
But
I love
I'm
the
okay with it.
overacting. I
Yeah.
feel like this is the right platform, the right show to be overacting in. Because going back to all the Tales from the Crypt episodes we watched and reviewed, there's a lot of great actors completely hamming it up and going and overacting because they're like, it's just fun. We can do whatever we want. But not that his character was fun. His character was not fun.
I think that's part of what makes it more palatable is having this really piece of shit character and just being played so over the top. Also be like even like really unsufferable, but it's a fun bit of synergy because Kevin Dillon was in a Tales from the Crypt episode where he also played a bully in really great fashion. That he was in the House of Horror episode, all-time classic.
He does have that look to him, right? That he's just like if you just saw him walk on the street, you'd be like, that guy might be a jackass.
It's funny because I've met him at a convention. Super nice guy.
He seems like the nicest person. They joke about that in pro wrestling too. It's that the guys who play the most villainous, like scumbags, are the nicest people behind the scenes.
Yeah, he just can't help having a punchable face.
Yeah.
This was I mean, whenever you have those shots, I don't even know what you would call this. The effect of like the bright colors popping up behind him and his face of like, oh, and like there's the effect behind him. I mean, if you needed like a very quick segment to promote this episode, that right there is all you need. Is just that's perfect. That account like that's Creepshow to me.
Oh yeah.
That's straight. Last week we just reviewed Creepshow 2. And that was one of my biggest complaints. They didn't have those splashes of color and like that dramatic moment, which I feel like is a signature of the series. It made me, after watching Creepshow 2, it made me happy seeing those bits come up again.
Yeah.
Watching Creepshow was it was AMC Fear Fest, and I was a young teenager the first time I watched it, and I was like, this was one of the first movies that I watched, or the original Creepshow was one of the first movies I watched where I was like, I wasn't scared the entire time, but that was fun. And I was like, okay, I get it. I'm with you. And so that's what I want from these Creepshows. And hey, whether this was a Oscar performance or not, I mean, that was perfect. That was fun throughout the entire skit.
Yeah. Mondo, what do you think?
I really enjoyed this aside from the ending. So a couple things. I do think they missed a golden opportunity when the creep comes in and he puts in his reel-to-reel player and he's playing the movie, and it's the Gill Man versus the Mummy. It should have just gone right into the episode of the kid watching the movie and kind of like panned out, and that could have been a perfect intro. The intro is still fine though. The ending of this with him almost being sinister at the end of it. When the aunt came in and was freaking out and he like does like the vampire fangs and she screams, I didn't like that because I looked at like I related a lot to this because my dad is one of those people that's like, you're not going to listen to metal, you're not going to watch horror, blah blah blah, all this stuff. So to my credit, my parents suck, but my dad never hit me. So well, he did try one time and I wrestled him to the ground. It's a whole other story. But I related a lot to that and being almost having to have these things that I loved that had to be repressed in a way. So that was very relatable. This reminded me a lot of that Tales from the Hood segment. Boys do get bruised. But it's a great example because Dustin brought up how Kevin Dillon's like always hamming it up and overacting. And if you watch the Tales from the Hood episode thing, they played that very, very straight. And you had David Alan Grier, who's a comedic actor, playing very restrained in order to get across how terrible this person is. But okay, sorry. No, but I think
I was saying he was terrifying in that.
Yeah, he was. In my opinion, I think I might have called that my favorite segment or the strongest segment. I don't remember when we reviewed that, and that stuff changes all the time. But overall, I thought it was great. I loved when the aunt goes, "Your uncle is sick," and you see the voodoo doll on the radiator. I thought that was a beautiful touch, and they do a really good job too of making the aunt character a very sympathetic character, because she's doing the thing of like the old housewife of it's almost painful to watch her blame herself when she's getting beat up.
Yeah.
And then what it takes her to really kind of she kind of turns against him when he hits the boy. And I thought that made her a very, very a sympathetic character, a very likable one. But aside from the ending, I was totally in on this and absolutely enjoyed it.
Yeah. Oh, were you say something, Dustin?
Yeah, I was gonna say with the ending, and they even set it up so easily. One of the things that was never actually addressed is the bully, the Billy Niles character.
Yeah,
like he has the Frankenstein's monster like stops him, but it's just him imagining. It's never addressed. Why not have him like? I was thinking is like look out the window, and Billy rides by, and the ant's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like planning a sequel or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Like,
just
make it look, like you have this loose end that you didn't tie up, and you have an ending that's not very strong. Like you could fix both of those at the same time.
Like Dustin, that. Are you a writer?
I mean, I write. I don't have anything published, but yeah, I write.
Because I'm like, damn, that's good.
That's really good.
I like that.
Well, thanks, man. Yeah.
I love this episode. This is just catnip for people like me, where it's just like all these great references, all these great recreation, like faithful recreation of effects. Like Gilman is just chef's kiss.
Yes.
It was a really good mummy. The Frankenstein was awesome. Again, I love seeing characters like that in just places that you haven't really seen them. So seeing again broad daylight Frankenstein, middle of a street is just amazing.
And I feel like they were intentionally campy.
Yes.
Because that's how he'd imagine them in his head. And I absolutely love that.
And just like, again, we're seeing tons of Easter eggs everywhere from other Creepshow episodes. We're seeing like a literal creep figurine laying around. And I like that. We keep saying voodoo doll. I'm sure there's a more PC way of saying that, but I like that the quote voodoo doll it's not a doll, it's something that you order and you put together, and it's got that like molded pieces. They're all kind of stuck together. You have to break them off. That's such a nice touch. And then, but also this episode has a lot of heart. The whole bit with his mother, like, oh, it was just so heartbreaking.
Man, that's one of those weird things because like my mom is what got me into horror. But then my mom also turned out to be a terrible person. But like when my dad told her she wasn't allowed to watch horror movies anymore, and she just stopped. And so that was like I really kind of related to that because like I wanted that relationship with my mom, and I felt so sad for the kid when his mom passed because you could tell that was like who was protecting him
right
from everything out there in the world.
But so it really got the heartstrings going, but didn't hark on it. It kind of like moved on nicely from it. So it didn't like stop the episode, which is I really appreciated too, because it could definitely go a bit too heavy into that. Yeah, the ending's a little bit messy, but you know what? I'm having so much fun. I don't care. I'm like, give me more of this.
I just feel like it took me a little bit out of it at the very end. And again, I loved it. I'm not saying I didn't love it, but that ending just took me just a little bit out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I could have used probably another pass on that one, but for an episode that got so many things right, like this one sticks out to me. This is one that this whole episode, both segments, I'm just gonna say is probably my favorite Creepshow full episode so far that we've seen. All right, let's move on to the next one. So we have Public Television of the Dead. So it takes place in a Pennsylvania. I did say specifically Pittsburgh. I think it's at Pittsburgh, or at least Pennsylvania. I know that public station, which is a big homage to George Romero, because that's where he got his start in public radio, public TV. I really want to say it's Pittsburgh, but I'm trying to not go that far in it. But so it takes place at a public TV station. There's a couple different shows being done. One is this like kids reading book time with this woman who is really nice and uppity, but like outgoing. But once the camera's off, she turns into a real bitch. And then we have this Bob Ross style painting show that we come to find out isn't really making any money. They're just kind of keeping him on because he's a nice guy, and they're going to give his slot to the other lady. It doesn't really matter. But then we have a third show, which is like an Antiques Roadshow, where people can bring things to be appraised and checked out. And then we have one Ted Raimi, literally playing Ted Raimi.
Yes, I love the fact they just called him straight out by his name. They're literally just setting it up like you're about to see the Evil Dead.
Yeah, it's one of those things you're like, okay, we've got nothing seems sinister. There's not like a sinister setting. Once you see Ted Raimi, like, oh, I know this guy. I know what he's about. And then he has a book to show the appraiser, and turns out it's the Necronomicon. I stuttered on that one. But apparently Ted Raimi doesn't know what that's about. He's like, oh, this is an exciting book. And the appraiser opens it up and he decides to start reading from it, which we all know is a terrible idea. So we'll
even Ted in the skit, even Ted knows. He's like, maybe don't read out of that.
Yeah, because maybe that's not a good idea, but it's just kind of weird. You have this guy who works on Antiques Roadshow, but he speaks Sumerian. He can read Sumerian. I love it.
Yeah. And turns out this whole episode is really one riff on Evil Dead. It could be like Evil Dead spinoff, whatever. It's and of course everyone starts turning to Deadites. So the woman from the reading show gets turned into a Deadite. The host is a Deadite, and Ted Raimi turns into a Deadite, which is, you know, lots of fun. And then turns out the Bob Ross character, along with a couple of studio producers, decide to go on the offensive and find the book, and mayhem ensues. Mondo, start us off.
This is my favorite segment I've ever seen Creepshow do. As a diehard Evil Dead, I guess diehard might be the wrong word. As someone who loves the Evil Dead, everything about this was done with the spirit of Evil Dead. There's so many things try to remake or mimic things, but this was 100% like, we're going to put our influences on our shoulders. We're going to tell you what we're going to give you, and we're going to give it to you, and never beat around the bush. Even when the Bob Ross character said groovy at one point, and he goes, I'm afraid if you're going to act like that, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to leave the set. I forgot that line. I cheered out loud again when I saw it. I cannot find fault in this. And also the Bob Ross character, they make a really great point when he's such a nice guy because he served on the front lines in Vietnam, and he's seen some terrible things, which is actually the origin story of Bob Ross.
Yes.
Where we don't know about the front lines and what he saw, but we knew he was I think he was a drill sergeant actually, and was like, no, I never want to do that again. I want to dedicate my life to something different. So he's immediately a likable character, immediately. And the studio, I guess, like the stage manager, he's kind of friendly with. She's a great character too. Like, you're rooting for them the entire time. And the silver dollar machine gun was like the coolest thing. And the way they wrapped it up with the bow, with them, like, I love how you see the kids at home and they're watching this woman being decapitated. And there is like a really kind of weird, not I would say weird thing, but the ending of it is, it's almost the stage manager, the production manager, whatever, not caring about the carnage anymore because the show got such good ratings. And you can tell that was a jab at how movie studios and television studios do things, because even though Bob Ross was like, yeah, I don't know about this, she's like, best ratings ever. They think it's a hoax. We're rolling with it. And that perfect. I can gush about this for forever, but I absolutely love this so much.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. Also, it's really cool when they're doing the appraisal bit. There's a lot that was even more Easter eggs. I don't know how they were able to get away with all this, but there's a Michael Myers mask. There's a bunch of like Indiana Jones artifacts. Like there's the headpiece to the Staff of Ra. There's like the Golden Idol and everything.
Well, they did that too. If you remember, it was either Bride of Chucky or Seed of Chucky when they go through the evidence locker and you see Freddy's glove, like Michael's mask. I think the the Jason mask,
and the chainsaw.
The chainsaw. So I don't know on the rights level how they got away with all that and how they got away with doing Evil Dead, but I don't know if but I'm glad they did.
So realistically, when you have Sam Raimi involved, I'm sure he talked to, or Ted Raimi, I'm sure he talked to Sam and goes, what do you think about this? And Sam was like, fuck yeah. Do it. Nick Otero's doing it. Yeah, go do it.
You essentially just have to say Bob Ross versus Deadites. And you're like, oh yeah, I'm there. I'm there. Don't say more. Whatever you need.
Yeah, and this was after the Evil Dead remake, so we've already had something without Bruce. So like it's funny because Bruce Campbell is so associated with that franchise. So anytime he's not there, you're like, okay, are we okay? Are we okay doing this without Bruce? But yeah, they nailed that really, really well. Yeah, so the guy who played the Bob Ross character, his name is Mark Ashworth. He was in Fear Street 3, Doom Patrol, and The Walking Dead. He reminds me of that guy from like Law and Order and Wet Hot American Summer, who played the cook. It's kind of like that kind of wild-eyed kind of guy. It's Chris Maloney.
His face is just amazing. Like Christopher Maloney from Oz fame and Law and Order.
Yeah. I thought it was him at first, but no, this guy's really good. I want to see him do more.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I see he's in Jungle Cruise. I've never seen that. He was in Young Rock.
Okay,
but not a ton of stuff, and yeah, he should be definitely on more people's radars.
Also, I was looking at Ted Raimi's resume because he just has so many great like one scene bits in so many movies. Obviously, he was in many episodes of Ash versus the Evil Dead. He had a bit in Drag Me to Hell. He's in that scene in The Grudge. I don't know if this is like the unrated version I saw or the regular, but the scene he's in The Grudge is one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen. Where like he finds his girlfriend and her jaw is just like unhinged. It gets me. He was also in Candyman and a great scene in that movie. But he was also, and I love this, he's in Blood Rage, if you remember that.
Yes,
as condom salesman.
No, Blood Rage is cool. Never mind.
I love Blood Rage.
That's a Thanksgiving one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm sorry, I was thinking something else. I was thinking Blood Rain, which is a very different movie.
Yeah.
I remember him from Intruder. It's a late 80s slasher.
Okay, yeah.
It was like 100% of the budget went to the kills. It has great kills, and everything else is just they shot it in a grocery store like over a weekend or something. But that's what I saw him, and I was like, I didn't even recognize exactly who it was at first. I was like, I know that face. And I looked it up. I was like, oh, that's where I know him from.
He has one of the coolest, like, I guess, resumes of anybody in Hollywood. If I could be reincarnated as somebody, it'd be Ted Raimi, because he seems like he's having just the best time with not a whole lot of stress and having a good. He does a lot of. Does he still do festivals? He used to do horror cons all the time.
Not in the LA area. I don't remember that.
Okay.
But I'm not sure. If like he's more Midwest guy.
Just wondering. He seems like a super nice guy though.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, this is such a fun episode. I love how inventive they are. Where like there's a key you need to open in the Necronomicon, and someone like the guy picks it up and stabs a deadite with it, and then like the Bob Ross character stabs another deadite with the back of a painting brush, and they're kind of walking around trying to figure out how to get it out. It's all so much fun.
I like that through all the makeup and prosthetic, you can still see that he's acting, because when he gets stabbed with the brush, he like turns around, he's angry, and then he's like confused, and he's reaching for it, and he pulls the brush out, and he doesn't say it, but he's looking. The way he looks at him is just like, "Did you seriously just stab me with a paintbrush?" Like just the expression on his face, you can tell it's exactly what he's thinking.
Yeah,
there's a lot of good bits in this, and I like that. No matter where you're from, essentially, you know everything that's being referenced, because this was such a big part of most people's lives for so many years. It's like, even if you didn't watch it as a kid, you're like, oh, that's Bob Ross. They never say it by name, but it's like, oh, you know exactly who that is. And it's like Antiques Roadshow and like the Reading Rainbow or the, that style of show. Everyone can relate to it. And so it kind of had a nice in with the audience.
Right. Oh, my other favorite bit is where the Reading Rainbow woman is trying to read the Necronomicon. They cut off her head, as all the kids are watching at home. So her head is in one area, the book is in another, but she still has the puppet on her hands. So she's doing a ventriloquist thing where the puppet is holding the book and the severed head is doing the reading of the incantation. And they kept saying, oh, pledge your soul, because they're doing a pledge drive. So they're, asking people for money, but then the Deadites keep saying, pledge your soul, pledge your soul. So just
Yeah, pledge your soul to the book. It's a great. I mean, it fits perfectly. It doesn't. I mean, this. You wouldn't think these two things would go together so well, but it definitely does.
This could literally have been an Ash versus the Evil Dead episode, and it would have been perfect.
Right, like they're doing now these like kind of spin-off Evil Dead movies, which fine, great. Evil Dead in the High Rise, okay. I don't feel like they used it that much per se.
That's great.
But I kind of like this, where it's like give us a whole playground of interesting things to do.
Yeah.
So it was just such a great setting for that. So I hope they bring back that kind of fun to it.
Well, that's the coolest thing about the Evil Dead world is that it's not bound to just the woods and one cabin. It can literally be anywhere because this book can, and I think they make mention too. There's multiple books.
Yes.
And then the way whenever I think about it, it bums me out that we never got Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. Because even in Jason Goes to Hell, they are planting the seeds where there's a part where they go to the Voorhees house and you see the Necronomicon.
Yeah.
They're setting all the stages. Yeah, the comic's really good.
Yeah, I think on Dead Meats, Zoran is doing Evil Dead versus Jason versus Freddy.
Well,
like doing a review. So yeah, check that out. Alrighty. Anything else we want to say about either of these episodes? Segments. I think they're both fantastic for different reasons. And there's just so much fun, so much to look at, so much heart in both of them.
I was kind of surprised. I watched the season 1, episode 1, and then this one. I never had started the show before, but I have seen the first 2 movies. I haven't seen the third movie. I've heard it's not very good. Yeah,
do not actually go out of your way to not see it. I think the company that made that movie spent all the money just to buy the rights of the name and had no money left over to actually make a movie. It's horrendous, and I can't state that enough.
Well, I was gonna say because this started as like a Shudder original, and I mean, it doesn't look cheap. None of this. I expected like kind of lower level CGI. The only thing that I would say is like, and maybe you know this before better than I would. Does the creep talk?
No.
And does he talk in the movies?
No.
Yeah, and what's funny in the comics he does.
Okay.
But in the movies and the TV show, no, he doesn't.
Okay. Because I was just curious, because I was like, he doesn't talk in this, and I was like, is that them saving money in some way, or did you have like the text boxes for what he's saying?
I think in the movie he at least laughs, but that's not it. That's the only thing he vocalizes.
I think they're trying to avoid the Crypt being compared to the Crypt Keeper because it's so iconic. It's like, how are you ever going to beat that? So they're just kind of going against the grain on that one. And
kind of whenever I read it, I kind of hear his voice in my head. Whenever I'm like reading it out loud, it's like that's probably how he would sound. But I was just curious, because I didn't know why they didn't have any audio over those little segments where it's just like kind of a text box.
Yeah, at least I remember in this season they start having him do more instead of just walking around being creepy. So it's kind of fun that he's like playing with the tapes and stuff, the reels.
And like you said, he's one of the little action figures in the first segment. Yeah.
All right, Mondo. I'm trying to remember. How did we do a rating on this? Did we rate each segment?
What we've done before is we've technically rated each segment separately. I think that's what we've done in the past, but I'm okay doing both together on this one.
I mean, yeah, I think for me they're both 5s. Easy.
Spoiler,
Mondo.
5. Yeah, absolutely love this. Had the best time with it today. It was so much fun. I watched it. I'm probably gonna watch it again because Kel was working when we were doing this, and she doesn't remember it that well. I'm like, oh, well, I guess we just have to watch it again, right?
Yeah,
absolutely loved it.
All right, Dustin.
I'm gonna break the streak here. I don't know. I'd probably say 4. I would maybe 4.5. Because of that I think the 5 for the second segment, definitely 5 stars. But if we were to break them up, I don't know. I just feel like there were too many loose ends in that first segment for me to give a full 5 on this one. But
I respect that.
Yeah, I'll go 4.5 4.5.
Okay.
Dude, 4.5 is an amazing score. Like,
it's still good. It's still good. No, I really enjoyed this. Like I said, I'm gonna have to go back and watch all of these because I did not know. My expectations were low with this is a Shudder original. They're just going off the Creep. I didn't know like, oh crap, there's effort put into these. Like these are actually well done.
There's definitely some that this, in my opinion, is the best one I've seen from the entire series. Just FYI, but there's definitely some hits or some misses. But the other one I really loved was the Christmas special, the first special they did after season 1. I think you should watch that. You might really enjoy that. It's fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
That one, the one that really sticks out to me is the Dollhouse one.
Oh, that one was great too. Yeah.
Like head of the house or
house? Is that the first episode?
That was the the second segment of the first episode.
Yeah, I remember the first one is the one with the storm. But
and it had
the head in the house. That one just still freaks me out.
All the names were in the first segment, but I feel like the second segment was just such a good story, and so it was so unique. You're like, why do I care about dolls?
Yeah. They actually this year for I don't know if it's our Halloween episode or not, but Bob's Burgers, the newest episode kind of is like that first episode where it's Louise doing a murder mystery using doll houses. And I thought it was really cool for any Bob's Burgers fans out there like I am.
There you go.
All right. Well, let's do a quick shout out.
Hey, I'm Kevin Dillon. You're listening to Dads from the Crypt. Victory!
You see this face?
I know. My favorite in the background is you can see Linda Blair is hanging out.
When are you going to invite me to come out for a horror fest with you, Jason? It's a 4-hour drive.
Mondo.
Can I sleep on your couch?
You can sleep in my guest room. I don't want you on my couch.
Oh, okay. We got to make this happen, dude.
Yeah. I think Al wants me to go with him to CreepyCon, I think in February. So
let's do it. Hit me up.
I want to go to the IE. Yeah.
I don't know what any of that means, but that's some California speak right there. So
yeah, exactly.
California, you guys have your own fucking language. Like
we do
at this point.
Speaking of California, the Dodgers just won the World Series.
They won. No shit. All right. I got text my buddy Anthony, who was a diehard Dodgers fan.
Nice.
I'm gonna do it on the air. It makes for great radio.
I know. I'm not gonna hear. I could tell because I could hear everyone yelling down the road, and I can hear fireworks going. So, yeah.
There you go.
All right, Mondo, give us your song of the day.
Are we not gonna do? Oh yeah. Hold on a second. Yes. Yes. I got thrown off. Sorry. I'm easily distracted. This is also a symptom of being in your 40s. So I'm pretty sure I did the band Death Evil Dead before, and I almost did it again. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I've done this before. If I updated our spreadsheet, I would know these things, but I don't. So I figured out another great Evil Dead based song. There's a little band out of Florida. They're one of the originators of United States death metal, I guess I would say. Even though they call themselves Death and Roll, Deicide. Famous for a lot of things. One of the most famous things is their frontman, Glenn Benton, who burned an upside down cross in his forehead.
Yikes.
Hey, he did this because he also said in an interview he would kill himself before he turned 35. And people called him out on that. And he goes, yeah, sorry, I said that in an interview. And actually, a few years ago, I listened to a podcast he was on, and he's one of the people that I'm worried about to listen to a podcast that he's on nowadays, based on the fact he's from Florida, he's a white guy, he's a motorcyclist. I'm like, but he was talking about how he asked a plastic surgeon, he asked his doctor, should I get this removed? And his doctor, who was like some 70-year-old guy, was like, why? That's fucking cool. Why would you get that removed?
Because you're not the one walking around with an upside down crucifix on.
Hey, I want to say though, I think he makes a living off the band. I don't know for sure. Some of those early bands actually got enough enough sales where they can actually make a living off it. They're not rich, but they can make a living off of it. But the first record they released was their self-titled debut called Deicide. Well, they actually named it, the actual original name of the band was Legion, like I Am Legion, and they changed it to Deicide to be like Godkill. And the second record actually is named Legion. But the first record is named Deicide, and the song I picked is called Dead by Dawn because it fits perfectly in with the Evil Dead lore, and it's a fucking banger of a song. Is that the kids say banger? Is that still a word kids use?
Sure. Yeah. We
okay.
Yeah.
That's still valid. Okay. But also the other fun part about this song is it was also in Grand Theft Auto 4.
Oh, really?
I am not a fan of the Grand Theft Auto games. Like, I don't really care about whatever you're doing in the games. I just like linear games because I'm old and can't keep focus if I can go all over the world and do crazy shit. But I thought it was pretty cool they put that in the game. They also got really famous for their album Once Upon the Cross. The cover was Jesus crucified with his organs falling out, and it was in when they released that. Most stores wouldn't put that on the shelf, so some of them would either black the cover out or put in like a black package, or they released a second version, which is you can tell it's Jesus's shape, but he's under a coroner's cloth, and it's all this. You see the blood where his stigmata wounds are, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really interesting that. I don't. Do music shops even think about that nowadays, or they just don't care now?
Do they exist?
Yeah, Zia Records here in Vegas. Shout out Zia Records. They're badass. They got Arrow fucking Films releases and Criterion releases and some cool metal records in. So I'm a happy guy.
Ironically,
cool merchandise.
I think it's only the ones that sell like vinyl and cassette tapes that are still around.
It's crazy to me because I started collecting vinyl in like 2002, and now it's blown up so much. And I still, my throwback is always I bought an original copy of Pink Floyd's "Wish You Were Here" for $7 because I'd never listened to it.
Oh my gosh,
dude! You gotta understand, like when we were growing up on the radio, the only Pink Floyd songs you heard on the radio were "Wish You Were Here," "Comfortably Numb," and "The Wall." And I think all of those are solid songs, but I think Pink Floyd's one of those bands where you have to listen to the whole record to get the. So I was never a Pink Floyd fan, and I saw it there, so I bought it, and I went home and put it on my record player while I was cleaning, and then I had to sit on my couch and just like absorb the whole record because I fell in love with it right away. I'm like, holy shit! Like, why have I not ever dug into this? But I love the fact that you used to be able to do that at record stores. Is find these great old records for dirt cheap, just to go home and enjoy and see if you like something or not. But since it's become like it sucks at record stores now, or the vinyl industry, I would say, has become a money grubbing business where anybody out there trying to get into vinyl, just be aware of what you're buying, because if you buy a record and it was just a CD they pressed on the vinyl, it's going to sound like shit. I'm just going to say that. But that was the cool days of record stores, and now vinyl actually outsells CDs.
Oh yeah,
right.
By a wide margin.
I wonder if like 10, 20 years from now, CDs are going to make a comeback. Like, I need that CD sound to it.
I actually think they are to an extent, because a lot more bands are trying to sell CDs now, because I think people that are just love physical media will eat up whatever you can give them. And to be fair, like the problem with a lot of modern music is the production is made to be listened to on Apple earpods or whatever you listen to on Android phones. I forgot what they call them, the Galaxy or whatever comes in the box. And they master it to where everything is just super loud. And because they want it to come across loud when you have headphones in, which completely wrecks the recording when you try to put it on like vinyl or on a CD, because it sounds sometimes like a wall of noise and no nuance. So I really hope we see more and more artists really go the route of trying to really master their things for physical media. And again, as a guy that listens to a lot of underground music, I think the underground bands and labels, the good labels, get that, where the major ones, I don't know if they do. And if anyone out there is into like the Taylor Swift records that have come out or anything like that, I'd be very interested actually to see how they sound on vinyl. I wouldn't want to go buy one. I'm not gonna spend $40 on something just to see if I like it. I know I'm not a, no offense to Taylor Swift fans out there. I'm not a fan of Taylor Swift. I think she's a phenomenal person. She's an amazing musician, but her music is not for me. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. No disrespect there. But I would love to see like how that sounds on vinyl, to see if they mastered it for vinyl. Because you can go to your local record store and buy these, like Blue Oyster Cult's one of my favorite bands. And when you find those old records and put them on a record table or a turntable, they sound better than most modern records do. Because they're mastered for that medium and they have this warmth to them you can't reproduce through digital. I sound like such a fucking hipster right now, but I'll die on this hill that vinyl is the best way to listen to your music. Not all of it, but most of it.
My Halloween 3 Season of the Witch soundtrack sounds perfect on vinyl.
Dude, yes.
That is a play once sometime during October, and then every Halloween it has to be on at least one time.
Yeah, Halloween 3, man. I love the fact that's had such a resurgence over the past like 10 years or so, where people finally realized this is a great movie. People were just mad that it wasn't Michael Myers, but you want to know what? Like, and this may be blasphemy, it might be my favorite my favorite movie in the Halloween franchise.
It's up there.
It might be.
It's up there. That's a bold one. That movie's just bonkers.
maybe
it was so bonkers. They stole Stonehenge. Come on.
Well, I won't say it's the best one, but it's the one I had the most fun with, probably.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. All right, since Jody's not here, I just have two bits of horror news. The first is that Terrifier 3 is now the highest grossing unrated movie in American history. Ever. Like, I don't know about worldwide, but yeah, that's pretty fucking awesome. And then we got a big announcement 2 days ago that the sequel to Fear Street has been officially announced. Fear Street 1988's Prom Queen. Doesn't have an exact release date, but it just says 2025. But that's fucking awesome.
So I have one necessary thing they must do in this movie, and it's cast nothing but 30-year-olds to play these high school kids.
It has to be authentic.
Hell yeah, I want that 80s slasher vibe, and I am giddy with excitement over this one.
Yeah, I loved the trilogy. Like, it wasn't perfect, but it was just all fun. It was all around fun. Yeah. Great time.
I never actually watched the last one, 1666. Oh, really? The one about I never watched that one. I watched the other two and absolutely love them.
I'm the same way. I watched the first two. I didn't finish it. I liked it up until the end of the second one, and then I was like, all right, I don't want to dive into another one. We're good. I'm good.
I think I don't remember the end. The three was my least favorite. The third one did really wrap it up nicely. So
I need to go back and finish it.
Yeah. I know I'm going to say this and it's not going to happen, but I'd really love to watch all three before the next one comes out. But that's a lot of movie to watch, and there's many other movies I need to watch in general. So maybe. So yeah, those are two news items. I'm sure there's more, but I don't really have the time to look them up. Unless you have anything.
One little piece. I just have one thing. It's if anybody out there is a fan of Nick Cutter, who did The Troop and did The Deep, two of my favorite horror novels of all time. Not saying of all time, but they're two great horror novels. The Deep is very unsettling. He just came out with this new book. I think it came out yesterday. The Queen. So if you guys are into horror novels, please check them out.
All right. Before we wrap up, of course, we're going to do some dad advice. Dustin, you are a relatively new father of a approximately 1-year-old.
One year old and like 1 week. Yeah.
Oh, so you just had your first birthday. Congratulations.
Yep. And he had a great time. It went about as good as a 1-year-old's birthday can go.
Well, nice. The 1-year-old birthday is really for you guys as parents.
We just followed him around, made sure he was safe full time.
Dude, that's all that matters, man.
We made a somewhat mistake of having our kids do their 1-year checkup before, like a couple days before.
Oh,
the day or so before their birthday party. So they just slept through the whole thing. It's like the only time they
Oh
slept
no!
for the first like 2 years was during their party.
But dude, no one in this world remembers their first birthday. But you remember that. So that's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and we got lots of pictures. Whole family members, or all the family members, were sending us pictures, and I was like, "We're good. We'll show them. Be like, hey, we were there. You were there. You don't remember it, but you were there. You had a great time."
Not to get off track a little bit, but have you heard the idea about setting your child up a Gmail account like right now?
Yeah,
messaging him like fun stuff and pictures, and then giving him the
Oh.
password when he turns 18 to go in there and see all like the story of his life almost.
yeah.
I
That's
think
a
it's the
good
coolest
idea.
idea.
Yeah, it's a great idea. We tried it, but then we like kind of forgot about once life actually happened.
One of those things where we didn't care about you once you hit 7, so it's fun.
Yeah, right.
I started writing him letters.
Mhm.
That's
so
awesome.
I started writing him letters even before he was born. Just like when we found out we were pregnant, and I started writing him letters. I don't know how many. Just whenever I get to a point, I'm like, I need to instill some wisdom in this kid, because it's like by the time he's old enough to read them and understand them, I'm gonna be 20 years older. So it's like, well, 40-year-old me may think one way, but 20-year-old me is telling you this. So
Whatever you do,
It's
don't
true
let
though,
him,
man.
don't let him walk in front of a truck and bury him in the pet cemetery.
no, definitely not. And if your cat goes, it's gone. Okay, we're
Yep.
not bringing it back.
I don't want to talk. I love that movie so much. I love the book so much. But I'm like, why did you even tell them that this place exists?
Right?
And then act shocked at the results.
And then like, oh, sometimes that is better.
This is
That was a Cajun version.
Fred Gwynn was awesome though.
Yeah. So Dustin, what advice would you give a newborn father or 1-year-old father, etc.?
Take care of the mom.
Dude, that's a big one though, man. Because like,
Yep.
so many, like mom gets all the attention for 9 months, and then sometimes when the baby comes out, it's suddenly like, oh, we don't care about mom anymore because we have this baby. I think that's actually really valid, really important.
I think the moment that helped us the most was within the first 2 weeks, and I just looked at her and I knew she was exhausted, and we had been swapping off and on, like getting up through the night, and I just put the bassinet in the living room. Buddy and I stayed up all night long. She woke up about 7, 8 o'clock in the morning the next morning. And she's like, where have you been? He didn't wake me up all night. And I was like, there you go. Yep. I just stayed up with him. And so, just taking care of each other. That's the main thing. And don't stop watching horror movies, because she was in labor in October, right? All right. We had the 21 hours of labor. The next day,
Ooh,
Nightmare on Elm Street marathon on AMC Fear Fest. Baby's asleep, mama's asleep. I got too much adrenaline. We watched like 1 through 4, just knocked them out. Next day, Halloween marathon. I was like, this is perfect. This is perfect. I was like, I did something right. Got a healthy baby and horror movies on the TV. You can't ask for anything else.
Were you hoping to hold out for a Halloween baby?
No, he was actually 2 weeks late.
Oh wow, yeah.
we were expecting like October 5th, I think. And so,
Okay.
Your ladies like, just get this thing out of me. It's been over 9 months.
Yeah, I was really hoping for July 4th babies. Like, I'm like 2 days away. I'm like, oh, come on, how cool would that
close. So close.
My daughter's birthday is in December, which is about 9 months from my birthday. So you can do the math.
Perfect, man.
That's awesome. My daughter's first movie was Freddy versus Jason, because it had just come out in 2003, and she was 6, 7 months old, not even that old. So we took her to the theater during a matinee, because time we both were retail. So we're the only people in the theater with like one other person. And we just said, like, I'd already seen it. I saw it on opening night because she told me, just go have a good time, go watch it. I said, like, hey, if she starts crying, I'll take her outside and deal with it. Don't worry about it. And we've had earmuffs on her, slept through the entire thing.
Nice. Oh, perfect. Yeah. I remember my parents watching that, and I wasn't allowed to see. I just to be 5 when it came out. So I was like, real young. And I remember they're watching it. They're watching it on TV.
I was drinking a beer while I was only 20. I wasn't, but still.
But I was like, it was right at the beginning, and they were like, "Yeah, come on in, you can watch it." And I turn around and sit down on the couch at the exact moment she like rips open her shirt. She's like, "Come and get me." And my parents are like, "Nope, out."
Well, was that your first experience with horror?
Because it very well could have been, yeah.
That's awesome because it's like, oh, cool, horror's just full of titties. This is great.
Yep.
That's I was scared of everything. I was scared. I remember I watched an episode of CSI when I was a kid, and it scared me. Everything scared me. The movie Ghost Rider scared me. I was terrified of absolutely everything. And then I hit puberty, like 13, and I was like, I'm gonna watch all the Friday 13th.
Well, that's for another reason.
Watching all of them.
Yeah, man.
And then it just never slowed down from there. I was just like, all right, this is my life for the rest of my life. I'm just gonna watch horror movies all the time.
I think we all have friends that watch horror during October, but the rest of the year they don't really watch horror. And I've always thought like when you dip that toe into the pool, either you're gonna take it out and say, yeah, maybe, or you're just all in. Like there's not a whole lot of middle ground there because like everyone, like my daughter now too, is completely bitten by the bug and she wants to watch all these movies. And it's so cool, man. Like it's and the other thing is it's such a niche genre in the sense that like in A Violent Nature, we talked about that earlier.
Yeah,
that's not going to get a massive release. With your normie friends aren't going to ask about that, but you ask any horror movie geek and they're like, they haven't seen it, they know what it is.
Right.
And I've always loved that we have this tight knit community where everyone's just excited about the same genre. We don't all like the same things, but we're all here for it. We're all here to support each other. So it's really cool to see. I don't even know what I was going for. I had a point, but I lost it. It's fun.
It would not be the genre you would think would like unite people, but it definitely is the one.
Yeah.
You see,
like I said, they don't have cowboy western conventions. They don't have romantic comedy conventions. They have horror conventions.
Right.
Yeah.
And I get like if I wear like a horror short shirt out, like people are always, oh, I like your shirt. I like your shirt. You know, you don't see Hallmark channel shirts. Nobody's like, oh, I loved that rom-com with Ryan Reynolds. Like nobody says that, but it's like, oh yeah, Pet Sematary, love it. What did you like, the book or the movie more? My wife's That's always cool. Like, you're just making conversation with strangers, and I'm like, wear the right stuff, people talk to you.
Nice.
That's my nightmare. People talking about horror, I'm like, a human being is talking to me in public. I don't know.
So you were talking about wrestling earlier. I don't wear wrestling things outside of the house for that reason. I say
wrestling fans are the worst.
Wrestling fans are the worst part of wrestling. I don't want people to know I'm a wrestling fan unless I know them first. Because I'm like, don't talk to me about it unless I'm like, oh, okay, never mind. We can have a conversation.
I started watching wrestling when I was probably about 6 years old or so. And I fell in love with it. And I love AEW. I don't watch WWE very much anymore. I have no problem with it. I don't have a whole lot of time to watch wrestling. So I can dedicate my one show a week, and it's a show I enjoy. I used to love I still do. I love New Japan Pro Wrestling. And I had a Kenny Omega shirt on once. And I was at a brewery that I always go to. And some guy looks at me and goes, AEW sucks. And I was like, this is how we're gonna break the fucking ice, dude. Like I don't give a shit what you think about AEW. Like it takes zero effort to not be an asshole.
Right. But they don't know. It's like, I don't know what it is about wrestling fans. I'm like,
wrestling is tribalism. It's people think if their promotion they love the most isn't the most successful, or if anybody can possibly challenge that throne, then I need to disparage it in every way possible. I, in all honestly, think it's just internet trolling thing, which has gotten way out of hand, to be honest with you. But like when we're done this podcast, I'm going to go watch AEW tonight because I enjoy it and I like wrestling.
There you go. Do what you enjoy. Watch horror movies. Watch wrestling.
Who's your favorite wrestler?
I don't even know, man. I just watched I've been a WWE guy my whole life. I've been a WWE guy. So I know I literally just watch I just have Peacock, so we just watch the once a month whatever pay-per-view going on.
I do watch those sometimes too because they're just fun to watch. Like Royal Rumble's always been one of my favorites.
Rumble's my favorite. Survivor Series is a close second, and then like I just kind of make like a party event out of WrestleMania every year. So
that's cool. I wanted to do it this year, but someone does a 30 days of Halloween Havoc where they pick a different Halloween Havoc match to watch every night. And there are some bangers on there. That's still a cool word, right? I didn't get a chance to do it. I watched like a few episodes only because I was actually in the Bahamas for work when it started. And Peacock is region blocked there.
Oh.
So I couldn't watch it. But it was really cool. It was really cool going back and I just love going back and watching old stuff that I grew up with, and it's a lot of fun.
I did just show my wife Halloween Havoc 95, and yes, she's still my wife afterwards.
What was 95?
95 is the Giant versus Hulk Hogan match.
Oh, when Hulk Hogan threw him off a building.
Yeah,
before the match
when they wrestled sumo. I'm sure people who don't watch wrestling, this is gonna sound hilarious. When they had a sumo
that sounded
match,
like a Mad Lib to me.
Yeah, they literally with monster trucks. They had a sumo match on top of the building. One of the competitors in the main event got thrown off the building, and then just walked down like nothing happened. They have a full match, and then a Yeti, which is not a Yeti, he's actually a mummy, comes out and double bear hugs Hulk Hogan for them to lose the match. That's 100%. That's actually what happens. But if
it's
you
an
have no idea
uncomfortable
what I'm
scene.
talking about,
Jason, I'm going to send you the scene. I'm going to send it to you because you have to see how uncomfortable it is. If you really want her to divorce you, show her Halloween Havoc 92, I think it was, and maybe it's 93, the Chamber of Horrors. Whichever one that one was, it was one of the worst matches I've ever seen. But you want to know what? I laugh at it. I watch it once a year and I have fun with it. So it's
all right. Let's put this relationship to the test.
All right. Before we ruin any other marriages or pick up the podcast to go start your own wrestling podcast, Dustin, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you and History According to Hollywood?
We are on Spotify. We're on, I believe we're just about everywhere that you get your podcasts. So you should be able to find us. We're on YouTube. We have a Facebook page. We have an Instagram. I think for social media, that's about it. We're working on getting a website set up. We're not set up yet. But yeah, History According to Hollywood. Find us on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. If you find a place that we're not, please let us know. It's also History According to the number 2. History According to Hollywood @gmail.com. Send us an email, say hi, check in. We're pretty laid back.
Nice. All right. Well, we appreciate everyone for listening. We would really appreciate it if you would give us a rating and review on iTunes, a rating on Spotify, a like and subscribe on YouTube, and follow us at Dads from the Crypt Talk on TikTok.
Smash that like and subscribe button. Is that what the kids say too?
I don't even know. It changed as soon as I graduated high school. I have no idea anymore.
All right. And with that, we thank you for listening to Dads from the Crypt.
Adios.
Follow Dads from the Crypt on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or I will follow you to the grave. No, seriously, you really should watch. But be careful what you ask for. You may get it.